PJ, Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, from what Chris just told us, it sounds like things are going about as well as possible in Pittsburgh, despite the Cam Hayward situation, but he thinks that gets resolved before the start of the season, and he doesn't miss any time. But as far as like his expectations for Aaron Rodgers and how things are going with Rodgers so far off the field, I mean, I think there are a lot of positives to Pittsburgh right now.
I like the moves that they made in the offseason. You know, I asked Chris about the two big trades that they made, getting DK Metcalf, getting Jalen Ramsey. I like both of those moves for Pittsburgh. It was becoming kind of clear, even obviously somebody who doesn't cover the team or is in the locker room or whatever, that Minkah Fitzpatrick was kind of a divide a little bit on that team when he was first there and he first got traded over and he was making plays. Pittsburgh fans loved him, felt like the players loved him. Minkah loved being there, and then towards the end, you started to see that divide a little bit. I think they realized they needed to make a move, and we know Jalen Ramsey is a guy that tends to, overstay his welcome a little bit. He can't really stay in one spot for too long. He's got to move on to his next stop. So I think it was a move that made sense for both teams. Like Chris said, though, I mean, what Ramsey's going to allow them to do on defense is really going to help them out. And obviously the quarterbacks that you have to face in that division, Lamar and Burrow, the quarterbacks you have to face in that conference with Mahomes and with Allen and Stroud and Herbert and all those guys. Great pickup getting him. Joey Porter is a good corner as well. He's not a number one. He's definitely a number two. So I think letting Ramsey guard the best receiver is going to help out that defense. And look, I mean, at the start of the season, this is the way it's been the last couple of years. When the Steelers are healthy on defense, when Watt is out there playing games, he has probably been the most important non-quarterback in the NFL since he has entered the league. You just look at the Steelers' win-loss record when he's out there. It's night and day what the record is for Pittsburgh and how he impacts the defense and how he affects games. Since Roethlisberger retired, Kate, the Steelers have obviously struggled to find their quarterback of the future, and the way that they have to win a lot of games is by winning the turnover battle and winning these field goal type, coin toss type games, low scoring games, and that's what they've been doing the last 4 or 5 years. We know they're really good at it. We know Tomlin's really good at it. They're really tough to beat at home. So it's going to be more of that. And then on offense this year, I do think they got a little bit more explosive with the addition of Metcalf, getting Caleb Johnson out of Iowa as well. Calvin Austin getting more snaps at the wide receiver number 2 position, I think is going to help them. And like Chris was talking about, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is such an upgrade to what they have had here the last few years. I think the big question for Steelers fans is the Rodgers addition enough to get them over the hump. Yesterday, we were talking with Sean Pendergast about the Houston Texans, and their next goal is to find a way to get out of the divisional round. That's the farthest they've ever gotten. They've never been to an AFC title game. The next step for Pittsburgh is to just win a playoff game. You know, they get to the playoffs every year, Kate, and they go up against the Ravens or the Bills or the Chiefs. They go up against one of those top teams, and it's like you can just see the talent mismatch when they get to those games. So that'll be the big question mark for Pittsburgh this year, is if they do get to the playoffs, is Rodgers enough to get them competitive in those games? That's kind of what I'm watching for. I think it's a tough team to bet, though, in the regular season because they're really, I mean, the Rodgers component of all this, and obviously how the 2 years went with the Jets. In year one, he really didn't even play. But last year was such a disaster for a veteran, older team and a guy who might be playing his last season in the NFL. You wonder if they don't get off to a good start or if he's dealing with injuries, how that could affect the rest of the team. And if they just continue to go down the path they've been going on the last 4 or 5 years, where we get to the end of the season, the Steelers just kind of run out of gas.
Yeah, the Steelers have the most wins in an 8-season span without a playoff win all time, which is not great. And that's still with Mike Tomlin going 21 straight regular seasons without a losing record. That's tied for the longest streak in history. Still, Steeler fans want to see a playoff win, and I think they need to accomplish that this year. Otherwise, I mean, I don't think you ever fire Mike Tomlin, but people are going to be in Pittsburgh are certainly going to be calling for that. The win total of 8.5, PJ, I think is a little low. I think they could get to 10 wins this year. Again, that back half of that schedule is fairly tough, but I agree with you. They need to get off to a good start. Otherwise, Aaron Rodgers is going to Aaron Rodgers, and things spiral when he's not, the team's not playing well. His receipt, who was it? Mike Williams for the Jets, last year? Aaron Rodgers just stopped throwing to him basically because he's dropped a couple passes. Their connection wasn't there. Like, who knows if that stuff starts happening? And if that's the case, then I don't think they win 9-10 games. But if you had to make me pick right now, I would take their over at 8.5.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't go under. You just read off the stat. Tomlin's never had a losing record, as we all know, as the head coach of the Steelers. So you can't bet the under. Like, they just find ways to win, 9 games every single year. And as a Ravens fan, I can tell you, never underestimate the Steelers. Even if they look terrible for a week or two, even if they look like a game where they look absolutely miserable, never underestimate Pittsburgh, never underestimate Tomlin, especially in the regular season. They'll always kind of find a way to figure it out. When they get to the postseason, obviously a different story, but the regular season, they usually find ways to make it work. I will tell you that I hate their schedule, not necessarily from an opponent standpoint, but Kate, the fact that they have a week 5 bye week. So you get an early bye week with a veteran team, a quarterback that's in his 40s, and you're going to have to play all those games consecutively. And not only that, all their divisional games are after their bye week. They don't play any AFC North teams the first 4 weeks of the season. We all think of AFC North football as some of the most physical in all the NFL. So the fact that you're going to have 6 of those games, you can't catch your breath after any of them, I think that's huge. You also got Buffalo in there. You got the Chargers in there. You got the Packers, the Bears, the Lions. I mean, they're playing some good teams along with teams in their division. So I think the early bye week is really tough for the Steelers. And again, it's been a team the last 3-4 years, it feels like, get off to this great start. They start the year 7-3, 6-2. We look at those AFC North odds and their numbers shrunk. Maybe they're favored to win the division. And then the final 5-6 weeks of the season, they fall off a cliff. They go into the playoffs kind of limping in and they get blown out. And that's kind of been the story of their season. And with that early bye week and the fact that they have to play all their divisional opponents after that, and they got some tough opponents, you got a veteran team with an old quarterback, Kate, it kind of just feels like Pittsburgh's on their way for the same kind of season that they have been having, which is why I think it's tough to bet them like in the regular season, because I could see them winning more than 8.5 games. I could see them making the playoffs. But I definitely would not bet them to win the AFC or anything like that. Rodgers is absolutely an upgrade, but he's not enough of an upgrade to help them beat those top-tier teams in the AFC. So I kind of just think Pittsburgh's in that like tier with like maybe not even Houston. Maybe they're like right below. Like they're in a tier with maybe like the Chargers, or they're in a tier there with maybe like the Patriots, a team that a lot of people maybe like to make the playoffs this year. Like they're kind of in that tier where you could see them making the playoffs, maybe winning a game, but that's probably the ceiling of that team.
PJ, to your point of them kind of falling off towards the end of the season, first 10-win team in NFL history to end a season on a 5+ game losing streak, including the playoffs. So it's hard to lose 5 straight games to end the season, including the playoffs, and they seem to do that quite a bit. Okay, so if you don't want to bet them to win the AFC or to win the division or anything like that, I mean, I'm on board with you. I think that's totally fair. Then if someone wants to bet the Steelers, it's more of a week-to-week thing, which I think is fine if you find a week where there's some value and the number's not quite right. Do you think with Aaron Rodgers that the Steelers are going to be a little overvalued in the market because it's Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin together? Or do you think it's almost the opposite, where the market's going to be like, this guy's old, he's not as good as he once was, new system, new team, all of that stuff, where maybe you could bet on them and get a little bit more value in that sense?
I think the market's probably just right on Pittsburgh. Maybe they are being a little undervalued. But even though you have a Hall of Fame head coach and you have a Hall of Fame quarterback, because there are so many good quarterbacks and the top of the AFC is so strong, I think, again, like they're people know that even if they give, odds makers know that even if they give a good number on Pittsburgh to win the AFC, win the Super Bowl, they're not going to bet that because of how the recency bias with Pittsburgh, the team that they've been the last 5-6 years, and knowing that the AFC is probably going to be Kansas City, Buffalo, or Baltimore. It's probably going to be one of those teams, probably going to be Kansas City, the way that things have shaken out the last 6-7 years. But I think they're properly valued. I mean, you look at the odds right now in the AFC, Kate, and they have the 8th best odds to win the AFC. Like, I think that feels about right to me. Definitely wouldn't put them over the Bengals, wouldn't put them over the Chargers, the Broncos, the Texans. I mean, 3 of those teams made the playoffs last year. I think, most of us feel like the Bengals probably have the better team. I know that Bengals defense is terrible, but obviously have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So I think that's fair to price the Steelers where they are, 20-1. I think that's a good price. I think on BetMGM, there are markets where you can bet like what the Steelers' exact finish to the season is going to be. You can have them missing the playoffs entirely. You can have them losing in the wild card round, losing in the divisional round, like those kinds of things. And I think betting them once again to lose in the wild card round is a really good bet because they're probably going to be a wild card team. They're probably not going to win the division. And if they end up in the wild card, Kate, they're probably going to play Kansas City, Buffalo, or Baltimore. We have seen how those games have gone the last 3 years. And even though Rodgers is there, and it should help a little bit, I don't know if it's going to close the gap at that much where they're going to pull off the upset. So Steelers to lose in the wild card round again, I think to me feels like a pretty good bet.